The FBI has issued an urgent warning amid the ongoing bombing exchanges between the US, Iran, and Israel. There are dangerous days ahead. Welcome back to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. Following the attack by the United States on 3 Iranian sites over the weekend, including the Fordo nuclear site, and following Iran's retaliatory strikes on a US base in Qatar, as well as new attacks by Israel on Tehran, tensions are running high all over the world. Here's where things stand right now.
Tonight, Qatar's air defences are active as Iran targets the US base at Al Udeid, just outside Doha. At least one missile was intercepted. Airspace over Bahrain and the UAE has also been closed as Iran carries out its revenge, Operation Annunciation of Victory. Last month, President Trump visited the 10,000 US service personnel at Al Udeid, the biggest US base in the region, sounding relaxed.
But I want to give a special hello to Al Udeid Air Base, sometimes referred to as the Deed. That's a little sinister.
Tonight, Iran reportedly coordinated its attacks with Qatar so the base could be evacuated, a sign that the Islamic Republic's revenge may be to some extent performative. The US base at Ain al-Assad in Iraq, shown here after an Iranian attack in 2020, is reported also to be under fire tonight. Then as now, the Iranians gave advance warning, retaliation as symbolism to save face. This morning, without warning, Iran fired a missile that hit the desert near Ashdod in Israel. The Israeli Air Force has also been in action. Earlier today in Tehran, a security camera captured the moment the Israelis struck Evin prison. People drove towards the explosion. One political prisoner managed to call his family, who recorded the conversation.
They dropped bombs on us. They're still bombing. Some people have been injured. The windows were ripped out. Everyone scattered. It's still going on. I don't know if it's targeted or not, because bombing a prison doesn't make sense at all.
A few miles to the west in Karaj, Israel targeted a Revolutionary Guard headquarters, as well as routes to the Fordo nuclear facility, presumably to prevent access. Satellite photos show that the US bombing damaged the site, but it's impossible to confirm President Trump's assertion that Iran's nuclear program has been obliterated.
And if you think that's a mess, stay tuned. Now that leaders in Europe are weighing in on the attack, be it Macron, who is encouraging diplomacy, or Putin, who is set to supply Iran with weapons, the conflict stands at a crossroads. It's not clear how, or for that matter, if the United States will respond to the attack in Qatar. And amid all the chaos, the FBI just issued a new frightening warning. To anyone thinking this mess will stay confined to the Middle East, think again. The New York Times now reports that top officials at the FBI cautioned that Iran and its proxies have historically targeted U.S. interests in response to geopolitical events, and that they are likely to increase their efforts in the near term. In other words, expect terrorist attacks by Iran. Remember how we've heard for 40 years about how Iran sponsors terrorism? Everything from Hamas to Hezbollah to ISIS? Yeah, the country is charging up those connections as we speak. The same New York Times article goes on to detail that the Department of Homeland Security issued a security bulletin stating that the Iran conflict had elevated security concerns in the country, and adding that cyber attacks by pro-Iranian hackers are likely. Those could take any variety of forms, anything from internet outages to shutting down power grids to knocking out communication systems, and that speaks volumes about our current moment. For years, we've listened to warhawks talk about how Iran was always just days away from building a nuclear weapon, and yet they haven't. The greater threat has always been Iran's cyber attacks. In the past, they've set up social media accounts designed to manipulate U.S. elections, they've spread misinformation about American or Israeli activities, or they've just messed around with bank accounts. So imagine for a moment how the public would react if a major bank experiences an outage that erases account data, or shuts down ATMs, or forces banks to close. What kind of chaos would that create in an already anxious and exhausted nation? We better hope that the people tasked with our cybersecurity, both in our government and in private businesses, are ready for what's coming. The US-Iran conflict is far from over, and it remains an open question what will happen next, or what the final endgame will be. Stay with us here at Occupy Democrats to keep updated on new developments. I'm David Reddish.